Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled Roanoke River Rockfish. We're talking with Captain Jennings of North State Guide Service, based out of Oriental, North Carolina. We'll be covering such areas as migration, river navigation and regulations, lures, bait, and of course, presentation. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community of North Carolina since 2003, bringing you fishing reports, fishing information, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and here in our latest and greatest effort, the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series, where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their insights, their knowledge on how to catch more fish more often. I'm joined in this endeavor, just as I am every episode, by Billy Thorpe of Thorpe Creative. Billy, it's good to be back in the studio talking fishing again, man. I don't know where I'm not even going to call it a Freudian slip. I don't know where it came from because I am excited to be talking fishing.
I know, man. It's been a minute since we recorded, but it's good to be back with you, Gary. Not bad to be back. It's good to be back with you.
It is.
And you're not looking like a fetus in an ultrasound right now. So people bought us coffees and the internet got better. We promised it. Here's what happened.
We upgraded our internet with coffee money.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's still a little bit trippy, but we'll figure it out. All right, Gary. Well, man, I'm excited to get started, and I'm a little flustered over technology, but I'll go ahead and jump into the reason why we can be here is our sponsors. We got a couple of them. So the first one up is Bland Landscaping Company. These guys are all over the state of North Carolina, and they are looking for people who enjoy the outdoors, who enjoy being with their family, who want to wake up early, get to work, get it done, get home, and get on the boat. So big fans of the show, and they came on for the 2022 year with us. So we're really excited to have Bland Landscaping. So go to blandlandscaping.co.com/careers and see what they got going on. Maybe you change your career and get a job where you can be on the water more often and with people of like-minded men and women, by the way. They're looking for motivated women too.
I like it, man. I like everything they're about. Career, outside, and supporting their crew, making the crew feel valued. If someone were to buy Fisherman's Post, I would give them a resume the next day.
Just give them a resume first, Gary. You got to get one job before you quit one job, all right?
Oh, that's how it works? Like I used to get a new girlfriend before I broke up with the old girlfriend?
That's exactly right, man. Just like those college days. And then if they won't hire you, maybe Marine Warehouse will. But definitely, no matter what, Marine Warehouse will sell you a boat. So I get a quick word from those guys, and we'll be right back.
At Marine Warehouse, we have everything. We have new boats, we have parts, we have accessories, new trailers, we have a complete service department with highly trained technicians. Anything you need to get out on the water, we have it.
At Marine Warehouse Center, as we've grown over the last few years, now have a large section of marine supplies from start to finish for all your boating needs.
What I love about this region is to be able to get out on the water, and also we love to be able to get you out on the water.
The best part of working at Marine Warehouse is being able to get involved with the customers and share a love for the water.
All right, there you go. Terrell says the best part's about being in the community, helping people get on the water.
Telling jokes.
I was going to say,
getting people on the water and telling jokes.
I heard people been going in there by the droves asking for a stand-up comedian show. So we're sending business his way.
I think Terrell is starting to ask people to go ahead and email Emmett their jokes. Instead of coming in and giving Terrell their jokes, I think he would prefer eStovall at marinewarehousecenter.com. I think, if I understood him correctly, I think that was his wish.
I should have been on the punch. I would have bleeped that out. I would have looked out for Emmett because now he's going to get a bunch of fish jokes.
And this joke, I mean, I can't imagine you don't agree with me that Terrell must be scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, I can't believe that you won't agree with me after this joke. Are you ready for Terrell's joke? Again, Terrell's joke, not mine. And he might have had a couple of drinks.
some Coors Light, Bud Light.
I don't know what he drinks. I mean, Fireball for all I know, man. I don't know. Pickleback,
maybe after the joke, we'll have a better
drinks.
idea. We'll have a better idea after the joke.
Why is fishing like sex?
I don't know. In my case, I don't get to do it as often as I would like.
Well, that's a true answer. That's not, I guess, a joke answer.
All right.
You've heard this in other ways. That's what I'm saying. I think he's scraping the barrel. Why is fishing like sex? When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's still pretty good.
That's a pretty good joke. That's probably the best one of the year so far, if I had to say. It's my favorite.
Well, I love those guys that stopped by. I got to hang out with them in person, pick up my, drop off my boat. They're servicing it for the year. And again, so I'm not just here touting them. I use Marine Service Center. Happy to do so. And they're going to pretty soon have me set up for the entire year.
Yeah, man. And I wear their apparel. And I like it. So go buy you a hat. If nothing else, go support those guys. They support us and make it possible to be here week in and week out. So we really appreciate those guys coming on early, man. We're almost at episode 100, and they've been with us since episode number 5. So really have supported the podcast and appreciate those guys.
We do appreciate those guys, man.
Yeah,
I should wear a hat.
You should. Gary.
I don't know about buying a hat, but I should wear a hat. I mean,
when you guys
maybe if they came on for episode 1, I'd buy a hat, but episode 5, I think I'd rather them give me a hat.
You know what? When you send that next sponsorship check, can you put a hat in the box? It's no big deal. All right? It's nothing. It's just a hat.
Well, look, I'm coming back to you. I'm talking to Jennings. I've known Jennings for a long time. Coming back to you for Billy's best takeaway. And you know what? We're going to, at the end of the show is when we're going to plug Buy Me a Coffee, and maybe someone else out there would like to sponsor the show. But for right now, Billy's best takeaway when I finish talking with Jennings.
Sounds good. And we have a little special announcement too, so you guys stay tuned. We got a little opportunity for you guys as the audience of Fisherman's Post, so be sure to hang out.
That's right.
You forgot,
That's
Gary.
Right. A big announcement.
It's a huge announcement. So there you go. There's the old hook. You got to listen to the end of the episode. But Gary, for now, I'm going to turn it over to you. You guys have fun. We'll see you on the other side.
All right, man. It's my pleasure to introduce to the podcast Captain Jennings Rose of North State Guide Service out of the Oriental area, Roanoke River Rockfish. How you doing tonight, Jennings?
What's happening, Gary? How we doing?
Doing great, man. Good to be talking to you. Like I mentioned in pregame, man, look at that authentic background. If you don't look like a fish and hunt god right now, then who does? Congrats on you. You are legit. You've been legit since you're like, what, 10 years old?
I appreciate it. I love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. It's too much work.
Well, I don't care how much history we have. I don't care how good of a guy you are. Tradition is 2 questions before we proceed with the podcast. You tell me you're ready, and I'll give you question number 1.
Lay it on me. I'm ready.
Question number 1, why should we listen to anything you have to say about a Roanoke rockfish?
Okay, good question. So I grew up fishing the Roanoke when I was really young with my grandfather. My grandfather is from Rocky Mount, so we used to go down a lot and fish the Roanoke River. We'd start with the shad run with hickory shad, and then transition over to striper in April and May. So fortunately, I've been able to enjoy and experience that fishery since I was very young. It's a really neat river system, and it's beautiful up there. That's one of the things I love about fishing on the Roanoke is no houses. You get down the river and it's gorgeous. But yes, so I've been fishing the Roanoke for probably 20 years, I would say.
20 years, and you're 22 years old.
I wish. I'm 31 now.
All right, that is an acceptable answer to number 1. You have qualified for question number 2. Question number 2, non-fishing question, as tradition goes. You share a last name, Rose, with the first name of one of the main characters of the movie Titanic. You're a ladies' man. I'm sure you've seen the Titanic. I got some Titanic trivia questions for you. You ready?
Whew. All right. I remember the drawing of the Titanic, but that's about it. Let's see what we got.
Best guess from Jennings. How many people died on the Titanic prior to the voyage, making the Titanic?
Yeah, I'm out on that one.
That'd be 8. I mean, I wouldn't know that either. That would be 8. In the movie Titanic, the character Rose, is that based on a real character? Was there really a Rose on the Titanic? That's a true false.
That is based on a real character.
That's false.
Dang on it. I tried. I did my best.
And then I got one more, and then we're going to talk fishing. Which costs more, building the Titanic, and we're going to adjust that number based on inflation, building the Titanic or making the movie The Titanic? Which costs more?
Well, I might as well go over 3. I'm batting pretty bad. Let's say building the Titanic.
It would be making the movie.
Yep,
190
yep.
million building based on inflation, 200 million the movie. But we spent too much time on trivia anyway. Man, let's talk Roanoke River rockfish. It is a special fishery. People are very passionate about it. It is one of those destination trips, bucket list trips. And so I'm glad you're here to talk about it, because I've done it, and I certainly want to help motivate people to do this same trip, do this trip with you perhaps, or do it on their own. I like your notes. I like how you want to start. So just explain to us, striper migration. Like, why are we in that Roanoke River? What is so good about it?
Okay. Good question. So these fish are anadromous. They're coming up from the Albemarle Sound and from the ocean, but primarily the Albemarle Sound. And they're coming all the way up into the headwaters. I fish out of Weldon. That's pretty much the best of it. April and May. So these fish are, it's a long way. It's pretty impressive how they're migrating up. And so that's why welding is so good, just from a volume of fish. It can be exceptional. It's really something to see. So the main body of fish start to get about the second week of April, and then pretty much through May. And just the sheer number of fish at times can be overwhelming. It's something to see when those fish are actively spawning in the top of the water column. The males will drive the females up, and they call them fish fights locally, but it's when those fish are coming up to spawn. And it's an experience. It really is, especially for families. And it's a great fishery to get younger kids hooked on fishing.
So I've done the Weldon fishery a couple times, and it is like Mecca for that rockfish on the Roanoke. So any idea what it is about Weldon? Is it just because they run out of water, they hit the dam and they just collect there, or why is it so good there as opposed to other spots on the river?
So these fish are actively spawning, and with that river system, there's long enough where those eggs can tumble and turn into fry based on the regulation of water from Roanoke Rapids Dam coming out of Roanoke Rapids Lake. So that's a key factor affecting the spawn. So they try to leave it with fish spawning operation, is what, fish spawning operation quote, which is there can be any amount of water released from 7,000 CFS to 20,000 CFS. There's one year I fished up there, and it was pretty amazing. Anybody who's familiar with Weldon and the ramp, I was able to take my Parker from the ramp all the way up to the tail races of the dam, and I don't know if I'll ever see that again past 95 Bridge. It was pretty amazing, just how deep the water was. But typically speaking, it varies so much just with the rain, and you really have to pattern your trip. I would recommend looking at the water flow definitely before going. But getting back to why it's such a good fishery, with the dam being so far up on the Roanoke, those fish are able to make the full run, spawn, and they can hatch. It's pretty neat. It really is.
Man, as far as that water flow goes, so that's nothing you can predict. Do they give you any notice or any indication of what they're going to do the next day, the next 3 days, the next week? Do they give you the heads up of what to expect in the coming days, coming weeks?
Some. So they're supposed to have, a certain amount of time allocated for the water release. And typically when the water is falling, the fish get lockjaw a little bit more. It kind of messes with them, shuts them down a little bit, but they do give you a little bit of time. There's actually a link. It's the easiest way to find on NC Wildlife's website for the projected flow releases from Roanoke Rapids Lake Dam. That's definitely something you want to keep an eye on.
And then in that, I think you said 7,000 to 20,000, in that range, what's your favorite number? What's your favorite range within that range?
That's a good question. So depending on what vessel you're going to be up there in. You know, a lot of guys will run skiffs primarily, john boats. Some guys are running jet drives. I'm actually taking my 23-foot Rose Bay boat up there. I fish a lot down, but normally about 8 to 10,000 I like. It really, a lower water level kind of concentrates the fish. When the water gets really high, you have to hunt for them a little bit more.
All right, man, I follow that answer. So as far as like river navigation, and I would even say, you know, again, I think some people might hear this podcast and then trailer their boat to Weldon and try it out. I'm going to guess some are going to say, this sounds cool. I'm going to call Jennings or someone like Jennings. For the crowd that's thinking they want to take their boat up there, before we even get to navigation, man, give me some insight into what to expect from that boat ramp.
Good question. Last year, yeah, the boat definitely was laid up on the ramp. It can happen, but it's a long boat ramp just because the water level does fluctuate a lot. Have a good amount of parking, if possible. I will go during a weekday. You'll get a lot better experience. So I'm gonna kind of jump in real quick. So the weekends for keeper season this year, or the dates you can possess a striped bass, is April 23rd and the 24th, and April 28th and the 29th. And you're allowed one fish per person between 18 and 22 inches. So those dates, there's going to be a lot of people on the water. Weekday fishing and fishing is May. I think you're going to be getting the best quality experience. But as far as the ramp goes, you've got a floating dock there. It's easily accessible, a good amount of parking. It's actually a nice facility. They've got a overlooking the river there. They've got a decking platform. So it's pretty.
And then what do we need to know, or what are you concerned with once you get on the water about navigation? And I mean, well,
Okay.
regulations too, but I guess we'll start with navigation.
Right. So if you're going to go and experience this fishery, try it on your own. I would definitely recommend going downriver from the ramp. Upriver, there's a lot of rocks. Downriver, there's still some you need to be concerned about, but they're more visible. As you're going downriver, you'll actually see, it's called the Big Rock, and it is a big exposed rock, and that's obviously one of the most visible. But there are a few in between. You can kind of tell, the current line, but definitely first time, there's really no reason to get up on a plane, going downriver. Once you get past the Big Rock, you're fine as far as hitting rocks. But you still have to worry about debris, fallen logs, stuff of that nature. Going upriver, you need to be in a smaller boat, kind of a shallow draft boat. Obviously, again, depending on how much water they're releasing from the dam. But got to be careful and really, really watch. There's been many lower units blown out. But if you risk it, it can be worth the reward. It can be really good up above. You get faster moving water, and those fish get fired up, especially early in the morning, late in the evening. The topwater bite can be, really something special, no doubt.
Man, I don't think I've ever been upriver from the ramp. I think my trips have all been downriver, and some have been pretty close to the ramp, and then some have been a little bit further down. When you're saying downriver, like what's the thought in your mind? Like how far downriver is still Weldon fishing? You're not going super far.
Yeah, really, there's points of and there's actually a map you can look at on NC Wildlife. I believe it's on the coastal river fisheries, but they have like the Big Rock, like I said, as a landmark, and then the power lines, and then you get down past that, there's like a fish platform. So that's how we talk, roughly where we're at on the river. But down 3-4 miles. But we've definitely made the run farther if need be, if those fish are falling back. But typically, and that's what's nice, you low fuel burn, and like I said, I'll get into how we're actually targeting this fish here shortly. But yeah, pretty close to the round.
Well,
Easy peasy.
well, what else about regulations? Like you've told us about the weekends, the window for keeping fish. So we've covered that. Now, as far as not keeping fish, I mean, what am I doing out there? I'm just trying to catch and release as many fish as possible. Anything else I need to be concerned about as far as regulations go?
Yes, good question. So single, I don't know if you can see that right there. Single barbless hook, whether you're fishing topwater baits, flukes, we'll get actually into lures shortly too. But make sure you're running a single barbless hook on all your equipment. Live bait, again, single barbless. So you definitely want to make sure you're doing that. And then since it is a release fishery, it's, doesn't really have anything to do with regulation per se, but take your time, handling the fish. Those fish have migrated a long ways and they are at their spawning grounds. All these fish are gravid. They're either full of roe or white roe, and they're there. They've made the run. So, if you can, just kind of take your time handling the fish and, let them kick off, because that's what they came to do, is make babies.
And then what's the typical size range of these fish up in the Weldon area?
Typical, and it depends. You'll have different year classes of fish, and that's why we're looking at some of the regulations that we are now, is what the state's saying, and I won't get into that. It gets a little bit controversial, but yes, so 17 to 27 inches, and
Okay.
there have been some 30-40 pound stripers caught there, rockfish. It's you know it when you tie into one of those, it's completely different.
Well, I think I can gauge from how you've already talked that, when you're targeting these fish, you're targeting with both lures and with bait. So maybe we talk lures first and then go to bait.
Yeah, sounds good. So just majority of what I'm throwing is going to be that right there. Just a white fluke. We're jigging it off the bottom, and make sure to bring a lot of jig heads, especially if you plan on a full day of fishing. There's a lot of snags. Like I said, we obviously have rocks there. Bring plenty of artificials with you, because you're gonna lose some baits. Earlier in April, the fish are pretty much holding right there on the bottom, lower end of the water column, and you're bouncing these jigs down as you drift with a boat. You bounce on the bottom, and sometimes it'll be a lighter take. You feel it, just a thump, set the hook immediately. And so that's pretty much my go-to bait, artificial fishing, is a white or chartreuse fluke. When those fish start to suspend more. Yep.
Let's do this, man. Like let's talk about the presentation of the lures, and then we'll talk about the presentation of the baits, instead of sort of covering lures and then talking about how we present them. So some follow-ups on that white fluke. One, people love specifics. Do you have a certain soft plastic or two you go to more than anything? And as far as that jig head goes, are you mixing up the colors? And then, are you mixing up the weights depending on the water flow? I mean, we'll start there, and then, sort of tell me what you do, man. I guess you position the boat and then power drift or drift with the current of the river.
Excellent question. So I do like Z-Man baits. They stay on really well. You can catch a lot of fish on one soft plastic. So I do fish a lot of Z-Man. These are actually Zooms, but up there we're pretty much buying soft plastics in bulk, just because we're fishing up there pretty much every day. But yeah, so Z-Man, and as you said, with the weight of the jig head, again, water level plays a part, but I'll primarily fish 1/2 ounce, 3/8 ounce jig heads. If I'm fishing up river, shallower water, I'll drop it down and put on a paddle tail and kind of slow roll it. But primarily what we're doing is either drifting down and just covering water to find the fish. Once you double, triple, get some bites, come back up, set your anchor, and really work it. Casting upriver, let it drift down, set the hook. Pretty easy. That's the beauty of it. It is simple fishing for the most part. Um,
So when you're
and
bouncing
yes,
off
there's
the
no
bottom,
reason to tie on a leader. Braid straight to the jig head is fine for this fishery.
right on, because they're so aggressive and the numbers are there that you don't even have to mess with a leader. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and they're not leaders. Braid straight to the jig head, let it roll.
So I'm imagining with all the stuff on the bottom are the instructions you give the people on your boat, like as soon as that jig head touches the bottom to pop it up, don't let it hang out on the bottom much. Like as soon as you hit the
Yep.
bottom, give it a pop. And are you telling them to give it a real good pop, or is this more subtle coming out of wintertime? You don't want to be aggressive with the lure.
Typically, these fish are aggressive, especially when you start getting into May, water temperature picks up. But yes, and depending where those fish are holding, there's some spots that you'll come over, mark fish, and it's like, we're just they're just in the brush or in the rocks too much to really effectively fish. So you'll come over, 200 fish on your machine, and if they're in the snags, they're pretty safe right there. So yeah, we'll just kind of try to position the boat where you're either up or down from the snag and targeting this fish like that. And kind of off topic here a little bit, but your GPS machine does play a strong role in this fishery. I mean, it is for a lot of us a game changer. Marking these fish, mark them, come back, sit just upriver, upstream from them, drop your baits back, especially if you're using live baits. Typically, it's boom, boom, boom.
And are you, when we're trying to find fish, if our trip together has just started, I mean, are you drifting down the middle of the river? Are you trying to hug a side as close as you safely can, or it varies? I mean, I'm kind of wondering
Yes.
what the tactic is until you find fish.
Good question. Yes. So as far as finding fish, if I'm hunting for fish, I'm holding my boat broadside, drifting down with use of my trolling motor, and I'm typically one boat length off the bank. You're going to get snagged more, no doubt about it. And when I'm doing that, primarily I'm fishing with live bait on a Carolina rig, and so we're just dropping that straight down to the bottom, come up one crank, and just hold it right off the bottom. And you're still going to get snagged. So guys who, it's a little bit easier fishing, you might not get the numbers drifting right down the middle of the river, but normally a good rule of thumb, 1 to 2 boat lengths away from the bank drifting down.
And you're using the trolling motor, you say, to be broadside. So I guess we're on like the up current side, and we're basically just not casting, just dropping straight down and trying to keep it a pretty vertical line without much angle to it.
Yes, sir. Yep, that's what we're doing. As far as covering water, you get a double or triple. You mark fish. And we'll come back up on that school of fish, sit on them, and then drop the baits back down. When we're drifting, fishing, covering water, you don't have to really worry about a heavy jig head, just enough to get you down. And then sometimes you have to bump it up to 3/4, sometimes an ounce. When you're coming up and sitting on an anchor on a school of fish. So definitely, like I said before, regardless of whether you're fishing with live bait or jigs, bring a lot of terminal tackle.
Is the current ever too strong where you have to control the drift because you're drifting too fast to really present?
Fortunately, we don't have that problem. Unless we have like a thunderstorm coming up where it's blowing with the current. But by then we're kind of easing on back off the water if that's the case. But it's what I would call user friendly fishing. I mean, if you go up there and can't catch them, you got a few things to work on. It's pretty neat.
Well, man, I want to talk about topwaters, but it seems like bait fishing is pretty similar presentation to what you're just talking about with the soft plastic. So brief me on my bait options and how you play that part of the game.
Okay. That's a very good question. So with with bait, a lot of people are using bass minnows, golden shiners. The bigger, the better. And the stripers typically will eat those better on a drift. So if you're sitting on a school of fish and they're not firing off on your baits, come back up and just make short drifts over that school of fish, and it's kind of almost like a reaction bite. Those baits are moving in front of them; they're just laying on it.
And when you
But
say
I would
bigger
also
bait,
recommend trying to get bait before. There's several local tackle, one local tackle shop and one guy that sells bait there on the Roanoke. But they could be out of stock. So if you're going to make the run, especially with kids or family trips, try to acquire some bait. Golden shiners and just large bass minnows are pretty hardy, but definitely the bigger the better on the live bait.
and so when you say bigger, your ideal size is?
How they grade them, if you go to a tackle, and I'm buying bait in bulk and typically holding my bait, but you want an extra large jumbo, just a good size. I would equate it to the size of a finger mullet.
Okay. And so I'm hooking that on a Carolina rig, and my Carolina rig is a barbless hook, and I'm dropping it down. And what'd you say? One crank up, so that are we hitting is anyone hitting a different part of the water column, or
say that one more time, Gary?
Are we hitting it down to? Is everyone instructed go to the bottom, bring it a crank up, and drift along the bottom, or are you having anyone target any other part of the water column just until you find them?
Question. As these fish start to actively spawn, then we will come off the bottom. So when you start seeing fish fights when they're spawning up top, definitely crank it up and fishing a little bit looser drag. Normally through April, we're fishing the bottom, and unless we'll get to the top water, I guess shortly, but primarily holding the bottom.
And then if I'm anchored, it's the same kind of technique. I mean, I know you said that sometimes they just want it on the drift, but if we're live bait fishing, you'll still at least try that same tactic where if we find fish, you'll go ahead and anchor up and try to work a pocket of fish and then maybe find until that pocket stops cooperating?
Correct. Exactly. I normally give it 10, 15 minutes. You're going to know if those fish are going to fire off. But sometimes again, especially when the water drops, they can be a little finicky. Just kind of sit on them and, bite here, bite there. It just depends on how much activity you're getting there, but I'll give it about 15 minutes and I'll have a good idea what those fish are doing. And again, depending on how many people you're fishing, definitely come with some bait, because if you get, sit up on a school of fish, I mean, I've had some pretty awesome days, 300 fish days. I mean, I don't think that's over. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've had 100 plus. I don't know that I've had 300, but I've had 100 plus days. It is it is an amazing fishery. I am in. Well, what about? Well, actually, I have one other question. So, are you at risk of losing an anchor? Is it that messy down there on the bottom? Like, is that even part of your thought, or you can anchor with confidence?
So you can definitely lose an anchor upriver. So the upriver fishing is kind of we'll talk about that separately if we can. It's different. Downriver, you're typically fine. Anchoring, the only thing you have to worry about might be some stumps on the bottom, but I've never really had an issue downriver. Upriver, really have to take your time on what you're doing, because that current flows. It's stronger, and you're probably you can use a Danforth downriver, but I just use a heavier anchor. I actually use 2 mushroom weights, so I'm dropping down about 30 pounds, and because that's what I do upriver as well, just with the rocks. So I'm just using a heavier weighted anchor. versus a Danforth.
Well, man, I tell you what, how about a little bit of a topwater discussion?
Sounds great. So depending on the clients I have on the boat, normally my go-to is a Zero Spook. This is a one knocker spook or Spook Junior. Just great baits. For me, hard to beat. I love a one knocker. If I have a little bit more inexperienced clients, kids, then I'll just use a standard popper, and that works fine too. But again, we're casting upriver, kind of towards the bank tree line, and just working it right back to you. And normally, like topwater fishing, early in the morning and late in the evenings are best. But there's definitely days where you can steady catch these stripers on topwater all day.
And are you anchored when you're doing this, or is this you can also get by drifting to find fish throwing a topwater?
Yes, good question. I'm primarily anchored. Normally, when I'm fishing topwater, I will already have found fish that we'd be catching on jigs or on bait, and I'll come back on that body of fish, anchor out, and throw topwater. You know, if you're hunting and searching, and that's just what you want to do is throw topwater, then you can definitely drift down with it. Kind of use your trolling motor to slow your drift or however you want to play it. But normally, when I'm throwing topwater, I'm on anchor.
And then, as far as that bait you showed me, is there a reason why that's your favorite bait, that one knocker topwater?
I think it just fires them up. I don't know, I'm sure you can hear it, but it's just a little bit louder. That's just my go-to. Whopper ploppers, they're also a great topwater bait for more inexperienced anglers. Just throw it out there, steady retreat, keep it moving along, and you catch fish on them, no doubt. But that's just,
all right,
just my go-to. It's what I like.
All right, so the next question isn't in show notes, but
Okay.
I'm going to throw it out there anyway because I know there's people like, I don't know, maybe my podcast partner that imagines they're fly fishermen. They imagine they are. So what's the fly fishery like up there? You get much calls for that?
Yeah, it can be epic. I fish with my clients mostly bait and artificials. I do have clients that come and fly fish. I would recommend, if that's what you're going to do, try to come in May. In April, still normally you're going to have to use a heavier grain sinking line, 300, 350. Get it down on the bottom, using streamers, clousers, and just stripping it, and not just short stripping it. You want to really move that fly, strip it up quick off the bottom. In May, topwater fly, it's fun. It really is. And if you're gonna novice fly fisherman, if you're gonna come up there, that would be the time. First, second week of May, and that way you can throw a floating or intermediate line versus having to throw a full sinking line.
Well, I think, Jennings, that I have exhausted my questions. But this is where I guess I ask you, any other thoughts, man? Anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share about the fishery or how to target the fishery that you wish you had said earlier, or something I didn't quite set you up with the right question? I believe we're in our sort of final thoughts conclusion part of the podcast.
Let's see. We'll look and see if there's anything I left out that I want to discuss. I would say the Roanoke River system, I mean, it is the best striper fishery we have in the state of North Carolina. You owe it to yourself to at least experience it and come up. And if you do have one of those epic days, you're hooked. You'll come back every year. And it's beautiful up there. As soon as you go downriver, there's a bend. You get past those houses, you're in nature. We'll joke and say it's like you're just back in time. looking to see Native Americans going through with a canoe. I mean, it's beautiful up there. All sorts of wildlife, even, if your wife or your lady friend is not really into fishing, they'll come on the boat. I mean, see bald eagles, wild turkeys flying across the river, little wood ducks. It's a special place.
Jennings, what are you doing when you're not? Tell our guests what you're doing when you're not at the Roanoke. You're based out of Oriental. Give me the highlight reel of North State Guide Services offerings other than the Roanoke.
Okay. Yes, sir. So I do move with the seasons. I'll start right there at the first week of April and fish through mid-May on the Roanoke. Then I come back and I'll fish some out of Wrightsville Beach, as well as up here in Oriental on the Neuse River and Pamlico Sound. That's primarily where I'm fishing now, especially August through September and into October. Our old drum fishery is pretty awesome. It's also something I would highly recommend experiencing with the bull reds. We also have a good slot drum fishery here, and then after October we'll do some trout fishing, and I'll start transitioning over to waterfowl hunting. I guide duck hunting November through January. Also do some cast and blast trips with trout, but when duck season come in, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Jennings, I've enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed the relationship over the years and have had several fun fishing trips with you, and hoping there's one in my future for 2022.
That sounds great. I always enjoy fishing with you as well, Gary. Good to catch up.
All right, man. Jennings, thanks for being a guest on the podcast. We will talk soon.
All right. What's up, Gary?
Did you like that, man? I put a fly fishing impromptu
I heard you.
fly fishing question out there for people such as yourself that imagine you're fly fishermen.
I heard that. Thanks for all of us imaginary fly fishermen. I appreciate you, Gary. That's what I do.
Not imaginary. You just imagine you're one.
Well, I mean, isn't that the same thing?
Because there's that one river in Tennessee that one time you like dropped a fly in the water and you were fly fishing.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. Whatever.
God, I'm funny.
I'm an artist. I'm an artist fisherman, Gary. You just get on other people's boats, and they tell you where to cast, put you on the fish. Some people have to work for it. All right. Some people actually got to go out there and work and learn and do all this stuff, Gary. So whatever.
More people should do it my way. More people should just call their captain friends and ask them if they'll take them fishing. I don't know why more people don't do that.
Yeah, just start a podcast, bring them on, and right before you tell them goodbye, hope I get to go fishing with you. Huh?
Hey, you have your calendar with you? Hey, Jennings, you have it. Before we say goodbye on this podcast, can you pull out your book? Let's talk dates.
Let's look at these dates real quick. Make sure you're in. Make sure when thousands of people listen to this episode, they keep you accountable.
I just
taking
need you
me
to
fishing.
confirm.
It's a good strategy. I'm definitely going to be using it. I'm going to take you up on that, Gary. Well, man, great episode. A lot of great information in there. To be honest, I don't really have a takeaway because I was trying to figure out why this stuff is glitching up a little bit. But hey, whatever. It's technology. It works. We got it. It's good. Still got all the information. So I guess my takeaway is go book a trip with Jennings and during May and go fly fishing. Unless you're a pretend imaginary fly fisherman like me, then don't waste your money or your time. But no, it sounds like a really cool fishery. It sounds really fun. And so I'm going to have to go check it out once I get back in the area.
Yeah, man, there are a number of trips in our area that I think everyone should try to experience one time. The Big Red Drum fishery in the Pamlico Neuse, the Roanoke River Rockfish. I think, Bonita Spring, off of Topsail is, sort of like Mecca for that. There's a bunch of fisheries that sort of qualify as you should do this at least once. And Roanoke River Rockfish is way up on that list of a fishery you should experience at least once. I'm in. I'm gonna use my charm and try to get in on that fishery this year because it's been a couple of years.
And so Gary, talking about fish, talking about keeping up with fish, we have a special announcement that we're putting out there. You want to make that announcement?
Yeah, I'll make that announcement because this is big news. I can tell you that, I've been doing Fisherman's Post for a while. Have enjoyed the ride, whether it's creating fishing schools, creating fishing tournaments, creating this podcast. And this has been a project that's been in the works for a while, and we're finally announcing that Billy and I, that Fisherman's Post, is going to be offering in 2022 weekly fishing reports. People who remember reading Fisherman's Post back in the day remember that it used to be a weekly publication, and that really resonated with the fishing community. You make business decisions, and you pull back to bi-weekly, and then COVID happens, you pull back to monthly, but the need, the urge, the desire is still there for most up-to-date current information. And I can't imagine a better person, better organization, Fisherman's Post, to do it. So weekly fishing reports beginning in April, and they're not going to be in print. They're only going to be available on the website. And this takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. So we're going to put these weekly fishing reports behind a paid wall. You got to sign up. You got to be a member. You got to, pay, whether it's monthly or annually, but you will have access to weekly fishing reports. This first year, we're just focusing on inshore fishing. We're talking to, inshore fishing guides are great resources that we use in the newspaper and in the fishing schools podcast, etc. Going to be delivered in video form, going to be delivered in audio form. We're going to cover the North Carolina coast that Fisherman's Post normally does, but I just want to let people know so they don't get a product they weren't expecting. It's not going to be offshore. It's not going to be surf and pier, maybe a little. It's mostly just going to be inshore fishing. And if we get much traction this year, then it'll absolutely be a project that we throw more and more effort and money at to really bolster up and give the people what they want. How about that for an impromptu plug? How'd I do?
That's perfect, Gary. For somebody who forgot what the big announcement was, to bringing that to the table, I thought you rehearsed it all day, but good job.
I didn't. How about that? I'm rolling.
Yeah, we're excited. We've been doing this podcast for nearly 2 years now, and so Gary and I both are like, man, I wish we could do something more and get our community really built and get this membership thing built and really make a deeper connection, and then that will help us do some other projects. And if anybody knows me, they know I'm an ideas guy, so I got so many things that we want to do over the next several years. And we're here for the long haul. So we really appreciate everyone who's, been here with us, bought us coffee, supported us, watched the show, listened to the show, share it, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, follow if you haven't already. And man, it's been cool, Gary. It's been, over the last almost 2 years, almost 100 episodes. It's been a lot of fun to, be a part of the fishing world. So, and be here and hearing all the good content, man. It's just great content. Even though I just imagine I'm out there on the water. It's been good.
So people who are interested, you can get more information by going to fishermanspost.com and clicking on premium content. We got some videos there, but you want to look for the weekly fishing reports under premium content. We got information about what I just told you. You can also register. You can also access. And Billy and I, to encourage you, I don't do this that often, but I'm asking for your support out there, to make sure we have a project that people want. We have a charter membership available, and so it'll be $50 for the year. Now, we're going to do weekly fishing reports from April through October. From November to March, we're not going to do weekly. We're going to pull back, but we'll offer some other premium content. You'll get a year's worth of value. So $50 for weekly fishing reports for the year, other than November and March. We'll mix it up a little bit. And then the beauty of this charter membership is next year, it'll be $50. Next year, a year membership is going to be $100 at least. But if you come in right now and support us, a charter member at $50, you'll be able to keep that $50 rate for as long as you keep renewing. You let it expire, you've lost out, but you keep renewing it. You renew at that $50 rate, not at the $100 rate. That's our plug to say, hey, please support us. Let us know we're on to something that you guys want.
Yeah, man. Love it. And I'll link it all in the description, show notes, all that fun stuff. So it'll be a little easier to get to. So yeah, go sign up. It'll be awesome. So really appreciate it. Thanks, Gary. Such a good plug, man. I'm excited to start another leg of the journey. So over here at the podcast, it's going to be a lot of fun working on this project. And thanks to our sponsors who make it possible, who are supporting this show, supporting this podcast, so we can work on other projects and keep expanding the brand, the reach, all that fun stuff. So really excited for this opportunity starting in April. So be sure to go sign up. Don't miss it. Otherwise you'll miss it. You won't know what's going on. And you'll be like me. You're like, what's a fish? Where's the fish at? So anyway, Gary, that's enough. I could go on all day about how excited I am, but definitely be a part of it. We're gonna have a lot of fun stuff coming up for our members there and our charter members. So really appreciate it, Gary.
Yeah, man. Me too. Looking forward.
All right, we'll see you in the next episode, man. Take it easy. Have a good day.
You too, man.
Fisherman.